Good morning, everyone. I am so thrilled to be with you this morning, and it is September. I can't believe it, September. And as we start looking, their kids back in school, what is it that we're going to be doing? What is it that we have for the rest of the year? How are we going to take the business that we've done for the first 7, 8 months and have a fantastic year? That's what I want for you. And that's what I think each and every one of us can make sure we get if we just make sure we do the right things along the way. So, today I want to talk about, because we've talked about a lot of different topics. And I had a wonderful opportunity yesterday to reconnect with one of my clients, and we got to know each other because she came to our dedicated entrepreneur event, and then she became a master mentor and has gone on to continue doing great things. And I love it because that's the greatest thing as a mentor, is when you can have someone and you can see them really have their business take off. But as we were kind of thinking back about the things that we had done together, and she paid me a great compliment, and she talked about, of all the things that she's done, all the courses she's taken, all the mentors she's had, the one thing that she has gotten the greatest value from was in the dedicated entrepreneur and master mentor program, the importance that we teach, or that I teach, on the deal. Getting the deal. And that really, when we talk about playing big, it really is, that B2B, not necessarily just B2C, is the deal, making sure that whatever you put together, it is a good deal for both parties. And that looking at the deal instead of just the contract. And that's what happens, is some of us get emotionally invested in the deal, and then the contract comes, and we let the contract keep us from making the deal. But you have to listen to your lawyers, and there are many times when I get frustrated with Michael when he's got positions that he's taking on things that I need to pay attention to, and I don't want to, because the deal is what's important. But you want to make sure that you've got the contract that supports the deal, not a contract that's just written for the legal side. Make sure the contract specifies that what the win-win is for both parties. Hi, Ken. Love to see you. And Kim, love. Kim's with us today, as is Karen. Wonderful. And so that it was really a great compliment. I really enjoyed spending time with her, and to hear her talk about how that has really helped her drive her business to well over $1 million. So we're excited about that. And we're excited. It's always nice to know that you've done something right, and that something that you've said has made an impact with people that you're working with. And that's really, when Mike and I do talks together, that's what we talk. We talk about the structure of the deal, and the structure of your business. And the business, to really be able to grow exponentially, is based on the deals that you can make with other parties, not just, one-off. It's not just the transactions, but it's the actual relationship. And when you have the ability to have those bigger deals and that bigger brands, it gives you that instant validation. So when I talk about the talking books, we had this new technology, but we got the deal with Disney. We went to the best, playing big, went to the best, and jumped through a lot of hoops, because we were nobody, and they had a lot of stringent criteria. But we took the time and the energy and the effort to jump through those hoops to satisfy them. And then getting the deal with Disney allowed us to get so many more deals. And that's what I want for each of you, is to make sure that the deal, it has to be good for both parties, and has to give you what you need to get your business to the next level. So I have a lot of questions today. When we put this out, a lot of people were wanting to get more clarification. So let's start with Albert. Thank you for taking my question. I'm writing today to clarify what actually counts as a contract. A business associate and I had a conversation and came to agreement regarding revenue and expense share on a property we have purchased together. Following this conversation, I drafted an email reiterating our conversation. My associate wrote back, "Sounds good. In my mind, this constituted confirmation of our mutual understanding. He is handling all the financial and admin side of our deal and is not holding up to what we agreed upon. I'm trying to work it out with him, but want to be clear if the email gives me a leg to stand on and counts as our official agreement. Well, Albert, this is a great question, and the fact that it's the first question of this topic makes me bring in the fact how important it is to have the right advisors on your team, because you're actually asking me a legal question that the answer might be different depending on what state you're in, because I think you're talking about real estate on a property you've purchased together. And so the real estate law in some states require certain things to be spelled out in writing in a contract form. And so what you have emails now in business transactions, an email that's been confirmed in writing could be held up as a contract, but you end up having to do some, legal work, and it might cost you more in the long run to try and fight it than it would in the beginning to actually draw up an agreement that you both sign, and that where you clearly specify what the rules and responsibilities of each side are. And as I have often shared with young people that I talk to and mentor is when you're going into a business arrangement with somebody new, it's always best to plan the divorce before you plan the marriage. And that is, while you still love each other and you're excited about the future, you say, well, what happens down the road if one of us doesn't want to be part of this anymore? Let's come to an agreement now how we're going to work it out while you still are excited about the future. It makes it a lot easier than waiting until you're mad at each other. So it's very important. And again, when it comes to real estate, it's really important to understand what the laws are in your state or your country as it relates to real estate transactions. And hopefully, this associate that you have, maybe communication is the key. Just maybe sitting down, instead of trying to be threatening, just sit down and say, this is, let's talk about this over lunch. This is what we wrote, and this is what you said you agreed. And, so how can we get back to this? And maybe just by having a conversation, you don't always have to resort to legal side. Next question. My name is Javier. I create one-of-a-kind clothing pieces and sell them online and to a few retail stores. One of the stores that buys from me has asked me to create in multiples for one special piece that they would pay me a much higher rate for. I like the idea, but they sent me an agreement asking me to sell only to them. That's an exclusive deal. This seems like a great opportunity that someone wants one of my pieces so badly, but I'm not sure I want to be limited to where I can sell it if it's that popular. I can't decide if I should go for it since it's one piece, or tell them I don't want to be limited. Am I really in a position to try to negotiate? And I don't want to be short-sighted if this could open other opportunities. Well, Javier, I can probably argue both sides, but let's talk about the deal versus the contract. So if this department store can give you validity and take you from that expert to that authority category, making your name more visible to other people, if you give them the exclusive contract on a particular design, as long as it doesn't tie your hands for everybody else, then that could really be a great stepping stone for you. That deal could bring you notoriety. You can certainly put that store as a customer on your website. That again shows economies of scale. It shows validation. And then of course, if you can make multiples of the single design, that gives you, the ability to make multiple revenue off one design. So that's, that gives you leverage. And as long as it's not something that they tie you down forever to their store for everything you do, it looks to me like it might actually be a good opportunity for you to validate your design. And maybe you can say even designed exclusively for, and then Macy's, Dillard's, Saks, Neiman's. And then that gives you the ability to show that they sought you out. And that's a pretty special thing. So I don't know that I would not want to go forward with it, but just make sure you go forward with it very clearly. And when it comes to that, make sure you have your own attorney, because you want to make sure you read the fine print and you understand what the document says that you're signing, because that's where the contract becomes an issue. You know what your deal is, Then you get this contract, and it's a big company versus you, and they sometimes have language in there that can cause you a problem down the road. So that's why it's important to understand the deal may be agreed upon, but when the contract comes in, things can be set up that are the overall deal is there, but the contract throws a few zingers. That's why it's so important to have your own attorney. Good morning, Sharon. This is Cecile. I'm writing from Munich, Germany. Lovely. I create all natural soaps and other beauty products and sell them online. I'm exploring opportunities for wider distribution. I'm in talks with someone who can get me placement on several bricks and mortar stores. One retailer he claims to have access to has multiple locations. Since he's brokering the deal, he has asked me to enter into an agreement with him. Because I have the expense of making the products and storing and shipping them, I'm not sure what risk he has, and that it makes more sense to me to compensate him up front rather than paying him a percentage of ongoing business. But that is the deal he has asked for. At this time, I would not be able to make these deals without him, so I do agree that it's fair to compensate him. I just do not agree with what he's specifically asking for. I'm thinking to propose a hybrid type of an agreement where he gets a percentage of revenues for a certain amount of time and then it phases out. In your experience, is it fair to ask someone who's bringing a deal to you to accept compensation for a limited amount of time? Or is it fair to expect they would receive a percentage of revenue for the life of your business arrangement with the deal they connected you with? Cecile, this is an incredibly good question because, the answer, of course, is it depends. It depends on the deal. It depends on the arrangement. Sometimes people make an introduction for you and they get a percentage of the deal they make. And if that creates a relationship down the road and you make other deals, then it may or may not be fair for them to ask a piece of that. And so, first of all, we live in a world where salespeople get paid on results when they're paid commission. And this sounds like this individual is saying, I want to get a piece of the business of the results that I create. Obviously, you need to look at your own margins and see what your costs are. And if this is a new area of business that you don't already have, and again, being able to be in a bricks and mortar store with multiple locations gives you validation that can help the support of your product online. Because let's think about the customer. So the customer goes into one of these bricks and mortar stores, they find your soap, they love it. Okay, they may not go back to that store to buy it again. They may look for you online, and so you're making a higher profit when they reorder from you online. So making sure all your packaging on your product has your online reference, your website, so people can find you directly. But this may be, look at it as even an additional marketing expense. And if it can get you into multiple stores, as long as you're not losing money and you're making something and you can cover the revenue. But, the customer service, the ongoing order taking, if he's responsible for all of that, then I would say he's also entitled to a commission. If the reorder is happening without him, I think that's all part of what you talk about at the beginning. And if he's not willing to do the deal without ongoing revenue, then you have to decide, is this a deal I want or not? So again, ask yourself, where does this put you in a position within the overall market? Does it bring better awareness to your product? Does it allow you to put on your website that the product is found in these bricks and mortar stores? Is it a higher level clientele at these stores so that it brings your product to a higher level in the marketplace? All of those things, that's part of the deal, all right? Not necessarily the contract. Your contract with him is what he brings to the table and how he gets compensated. But look at the bigger deal. What's the bigger deal? And so many times, and I've shared this at Dedicated Entrepreneur and with my clients, when I'm in the middle of looking for a real estate or property management company, instead of negotiating to get the cheapest price on something, sometimes I want to actually make sure that I'm compensating them more than their other clients do. And why do I do that? Because if they're bringing deals to me, do you think they'll bring me a deal before someone else if they get paid more with me? And so that's part of the deal making. So if their normal clients pay this individual 3% or 4% for the deals they bring him, I'm going to pay him 5% because when he gets a brand new deal, where do you think he's going to take it first? And so that's the deal versus the contract. And the contract can have all kinds of stipulations in there. And again, that's where you have to make sure the contract doesn't change the spirit of the deal, because the spirit of the deal is what's important. Hi, Sharon. This is Ellen, and I live in Denver. I offer videography and editing services. I started this as a side gig to earn some extra money and learn the skills as I went, and it's turned out to be a full-time thing. I enjoy what I do and can see opportunity grow by adding other videographers and editors. I've done work with small businesses who are growing and want to create training, onboarding videos for new employees. I'd really like to land a couple of corporate clients doing the same type of work, but I'm not quite sure how to get my foot in the door. And once I'm in, I'm a bit terrified at what the process of working through agreements requirements will be. It would be great if I can create a stable of videos that I can repurpose from one client to the next and just edit in their logos or maybe an intro outro. But I wonder if a large corporation will want to know that whatever they are using is one of a kind. So this is a great question, Ellen, because again, the answer is going to be it depends. Part of getting in the door is showing that you've earned the right. We've talked about this in other sessions, earning the right. And that is sometimes maybe you want to do a company that you have a relationship with and offer to do it for them at cost or even free to demonstrate what you do so that you can then show it as an example to other companies, maybe get a testimonial from them. And then the thought of you being able to do an evergreen that other companies will pick up and that you can put in their logos, as long as it can look like it's unique to them and it's information that they need, I'm sure they're going to think about considering, particularly if it's much less expensive than you creating an exclusive one for them, as long as the information is what they want. But larger corporations do sometimes have this not invented here syndrome, where you might want to include them in the video at certain points so that they have that unique participation that again brands it with them so that it does appear to be exclusive to them. But that, having said that, that's where the contract comes in. So if you're repurposing content, you need to read the contract with your client and make sure you're not giving them ownership over that content. Because if you do, then you can't repurpose it for someone else down the road. So that's where the contract can mess with the deal. So it's all about communication and making sure you get these things lined out up front so that you know where it's very important to understand what it is you're creating with them. And even to the point of saying, I have this stable of content that I have used elsewhere, but I think is appropriate for you, but I want to make it I want to make it so that it's relevant to you and that it's co-branded. All right, so here's my content. I want to add pieces of you in here so that it is developed specifically for you. So that's co-branding. But again, in the contract, you have to make sure that you clearly say who owns what content so that nobody has misrepresentations or misunderstandings of the deal based on what's written in the contract. Okay, so these have been some great questions. And that's Ellen. So my name is Marcus. I'm a technical solutions consultant, but have written my first book about a totally unrelated subject. I grew up in a family that had a lot of mental illness, and my book shares the stories of my family and other people that I have met in the process of supporting loved ones. Where I can, I'm sharing about techniques that have worked to help people manage their illness. I've always wanted to write this book, and as people become more open to discussing mental illness, it seems like the right time. A friend of mine introduced me to someone who knows and works for a small publishing company that's willing to take on first-time authors. They had a favorable response to my proposal and sent me a contract to review. I don't have any experience in publishing, but I'm a relatively smart person, and some of the terms of this agreement sound crazy to me. When I politely asked a few questions, I was told that this is their standard agreement and terms. I have since been exploring self-publishing, but it seems like being published by someone else adds credibility. I guess my question is, do these companies even negotiate, or are first-time authors left with no option but to take these deals? Well, Marcus, this isn't just a "it depends" response. This is a loaded question. I have an entire webinar seminar that we talk about publishing in today's world. It's never been easier to self-publish, and there are people there that are standing. They're ready for distribution to support you in that, so that you can maintain the ownership of your copyright and self-publish a book. It is true that large publishing houses, for a first-time author, you don't have much negotiation. Now, in our case, because we did basically publish the company publish Rich Dad through our own company, Mike and I own a publishing company. We established the credibility, we earned the right, we got to the bestseller list on our own, and then we had the ability to stand toe-to-toe with the large publishers and negotiate a different contract. But we had power in that relationship, in the deal. All right. And so right now, when you're looking at a big publisher and yourself, you have very little power. And that's unfortunately what happens to a lot of young authors. They just sign anything they get. So you can always go back to the well and say, these are the things that make me uncomfortable, and see if they're willing to negotiate. The success rate of brand new authors with large publishing houses, even getting a contract from them, is much more difficult today than it was years ago. But the flip side of that coin is that if you do have a publisher who really wants what you have, and you have a very dynamite marketing plan, then they might be willing to negotiate a little bit with you on what the terms are. But as I said to begin, there's never been easier to self-publish, get your own ISBN number, and then find distribution partners. And there are also publishers out there that will do a co-op. Well, they'll do all the work, you just have to pay for it. So you're still paying to publish and print your own books, but they're taking on the ability to get it into the stores, do the distribution. And that might be the hybrid you might want to look at, so that you're not having to do everything on your own, and you're bringing in that kind of expertise. But keep looking and keep asking and looking at all the alternatives, because even through Amazon, they have a self-publishing opportunity for you. So all of those things you need to look at and say which one feels better for you. And then there are also companies out there that are willing to be a consultant for you. But again, don't get stuck in paying a lot of money for someone. That ask them if they've earned the right. Ask them how they've done this for other people, to make sure you feel comfortable that they're coming to the table with that expertise. Hi, Renee. I'm so happy you joined us. So again, I wish you well, Marcus. And certainly if you want to call us at the office, please do, or info@sharonlechter.com, because this is the kind of thing that, it's hard to navigate when you're a brand new to an area and you're walking into a dinosaur industry, because publishing, the big houses are still dinosaurs within this industry. And so it's important to protect yourself and to make sure you know what all your options are. Good day, Sharon. My name is Edward. Good day. I love that. Good day, Sharon. My name is Edward. I reside in Arizona. I own and operate a successful landscaping business. I have 3 crews that service different areas, and one of my crew leaders has approached me asking if I'd be willing to sell off his service area to him. I've never thought of this, and I appreciate that he came to me directly rather than trying to start his own business and going behind my back to these clients. Very smart, Edward. Yes, I would exactly say that's very, very to be appreciated. I think he's a man of integrity. I believe he would do a good job of keeping up his business, as he's reliable and a good person. But this means I would either transition the entire crew to him somehow in the deal, or I find enough new clients to keep them all busy. He will need a crew, and I know these guys are loyal to him. He's offered me what I feel like a pretty good offer, although I would be financing it for him. So it does carry a risk. If I can elevate his opportunity and it makes sense for me financially, it feels pretty good. But I'm second guessing if there's something else that I'm not thinking about. What do you think? Well, Edward, oh gosh, if you guys have any ideas, please share them in the comments. Hi, Greg and Gregory. We had Greg and Gregory joined us at the same time. Number one, I applaud him because in this kind of service business, it's very easy to go around somebody's back when they're the ones that are the front line with the customer. Um, so, and it sounds like it makes sense, and it might be something that you'd be interested in. But I also want to applaud you because you're thinking about your crew, and that's the sign of an excellent employer. So kudos to you for taking into consideration your crew. And this is, again, something where it's what is the deal versus the contract say? What's the overall deal? If you're financing it, then obviously you have an issue in maintaining quality control, making sure that those clients. And what happens is when you do that, you also have to think about the clients. They may not want to transition to a new company. And so that's something that you need to talk to him about. Now, you indicate that he has a good relationship with the clients, and so that may not be an issue. But it might very well be that he takes it as his own business and he's paying you off over time, but maybe you stay on as an advisor, as a mentor for him, so that the people that his clients that he's taking as your section of the business know that you're still involved. That will give them a higher level of comfort. So again, that's part of the deal that you can make, where as long as you're still being paid money, there's still money due you, then you're still part of the business from a mentor perspective, so that you have the opportunity to oversee what's going on while you still have a vested interest. And if your crew doesn't go with him, it sounds to me like that you have the opportunity to create a whole new section, so you have 3 areas. Maybe you look for a 4th area that you can start, whether without his crew, but then you can replace that area with his. But what happens is when you create this opportunity for him, it makes you feel great. I know every time we send someone off to start their own business that has worked with us, it gets me excited to see them taking off and doing their own thing. And so it brings its own reward. So you may want to actually think about, how can you do this and repeat it over and over again? There's things like, in fact, I think Karen just mentioned franchising. Franchising is definitely something to consider, but that's a huge issue legally, with lots of things that you have to jump through. But finding an area, securing the people, training the people, and then having that individual being able to buy that from you is something that you can create a system. We talk about the importance of systems. Well, creating the system of how you do this with him and putting in that ability to oversee it and be the mentor afterwards, then that's something that you can rinse and repeat. Whatever you do with him, all right, you can take and do it with other people in your area. And certainly once you've done that multiple times, and if it looks like it's something that you have truly successful systems, that would be the point that I would think about franchising, because that takes a lot of time and effort and energy on your part. So make sure this is something that you enjoy doing. But I think you have all the ingredients of a successful business model, because it sounds like you hire great people, and that you treat your people very well, and that your customers are happy. So you have all the aspects of a successful business model, whatever business model you choose. And it's not always that easy. Usually when I talk to people, there's something that's broken in the mix, which is why somebody wants to go their separate way. And it doesn't sound like that's your case, Edward. So I want to applaud you, in every direction. Thank you, Lana, for such a nice compliment. One of the best Q&A sessions I've heard. I appreciate that. And I just want to go back, because I bet every one of you has come across one of these issues, with Albert talking about, the deals made on a contract. I just had somebody come see me last weekend with a deal written on the back of a piece of paper that could have easily been a napkin. I did a proposed real estate deal once on the back of a placemat, but it was followed with a contract. So, these are all things that you want to make sure you get to the point where you consider the what ifs, because this person I talked to last week was looking at entering a new business, and the basic tenets were there, but there were lots of other issues related to each thing that hadn't been dealt with. And it's important to think about, as my husband would say, what's the, consider the possibilities, right? He says, you want to cover every possible outcome. Now, not always can you do that, but it's important because when you don't cover all those aspects, sometimes you end up having unintended consequences and misunderstandings because, we all go into a deal excited, high emotion, right? And sometimes it's low intelligence. Sometimes we get excited about something, but we don't take our time to make sure the contract is truly representative of the deal. And it's important to do that, to make sure you cover those issues as to what specifically it means. So you're going to get X percent, maybe you're going to get 10% of a deal. Well, 10% of what? Is it 10% of gross, net? And how is that going to be? When is it going to get paid? So all of those aspects are part of the contract that needs to be included to make sure you've got the true deal that you think you have. And so it's understanding the difference. Both are important, the overall deal, of course, but the contract can either make the deal successful or it can blow it up if it's not representative of what you both wanted from a standpoint of walking into the deal and the fact that the desired result. And, and Cecile, you talking about the hybrid of an arrangement, you can have that. And the issue again is, what do you both want? And you can pay him up front, but I tend to like to pay on performance, because if he doesn't perform, I don't have to pay anything. And so that's my personal preference. And so if you want a hybrid, the hybrid could be, when you talk about the hybrid, you're talking percentage of what he does and then it drops off. Well, if this is his profession, is that the right thing to do? As long as there's still work involved down the road and he's still the one managing it, and he probably has a right to some compensation. So challenge yourself to think about that, and understanding that as you build through association, you have the opportunity to build through success by paying other people more, and it comes back to you in spades when you take care of your people. Just like we heard from Edward, his business is, he's in this situation because he hires great people, treats his people well, customers are happy, and he's looking at this as a win-win-win instead of, somebody wants to take my business away from me. So a lot of it is our attitude and how we look at it. And then Ellen, with your videography and editing services, it's the agreements and requirements. It is important to have the deal lined out and that your agreements are there. This is an important area with what you do. And we talk about work for hire, is when you get hired for somebody, if somebody has, I talk about it, do you own it? And if you do something for a company, in their agreement, they may have a work for hire, which means they own it. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to the contract to make sure that it is saying what the overall deal is that you want to do. And then Marcus, with your book, I want to wish you well on that, and make sure that you really take time to look at what all your alternatives are. What is it that you want to do? One of the things with going with a big publisher is, if you want to use your book to be able to give it away to people that you feel are in need, you're going to have to pay for your book when you get to a major publisher. If you self-publish, then you have a much lower cost. Major publishers will probably give you only a 50% discount. So you may be paying a lot of money for your own book. And as a self-publishing, and certainly I want to, in the area of mental illness, obviously this is a huge issue for me. It took me, losing my son kicked me off my feet for a while, a long time. So this is a huge issue for me as well, and something that we do. So many people today need support and resources. And so I think your book is very needed. And so figure out how you can make it available to the most people as quickly as possible. And I think you'll find your answers there. And then let's see. And then Edward, I love ending on your story, because that makes the world go round. And it also brings me back to how this all got started, because I share this. We usually don't pick my topic for Wednesdays. until it's something that's really happening, because I shared with you that I want to share what's happening to me as we go forward. And it was just a great boost of energy for me yesterday to meet up with the gal that I used to mentor, and to hear her success and where she's gone and how she really attributed it back to stuff that she learned from me. And there's nothing better that makes you feel good about what you're doing. And what I want to do with the Play Big movement, and talk about what I shared with her in the Dedicated Entrepreneur classes, and then what we did in Master Mentor is what we share in the Play Big movement course. And so as I continue to talk about playing big, I want to make it available to a lot of people, not just those that can afford to pay me a lot of money to work with me one-on-one. And that's why we created the course. And I know Angela's going to post in here how you can find more out about the course, and I want to invite you to do that. But I also ask you to share with your friends, because this, each week, and Lana, thank you for your compliment again. And Kim is with me. Yay, Kim's here too. I just want you to know that I do this because we want to continue sharing the things that I'm going through, the good and the bad and the ugly as well, but also the steps that you can use. And the more people that I share this with, hopefully the more people that we can assist to play big in their own lives. So I would really be great benefit to me and to the people that you would share this with. And it would be an honor and a privilege to have you share this with others, so that we can continue sharing this wisdom for free for people that want to take their business to the next level. So thank you so much. Again, I'm at 10:37, so I want to wish you a great week and a happy September, and let's make 2018 a great, successful year. Take care.